I think we still have a few more people come in, and we'll just kind of let them come in as they do. And I say this, I think, every time, but we really do enjoy doing this process. Having the chance to work with lots of different people in the community, clients, health problems, health issues, and the chance to help people kind of walk through some of that transition of like understanding holistic health, what it means that like we do have answers in our own like lives, our lifestyles, and the way we eat, and the way we move, and all those things, and that they can provide answers to our health issues is really an amazing thing that we want to continue to like perpetuate and help like grow. And that's kind of why we do these holistic hangouts. We also, as well, kind of for anyone that comes, we do offer a discount. If you're new and haven't been to our office before and you come out to these, we do a 10% discount for new patients. Or if you come and bring someone, we do 10% up on your next visits, those kind of things, to help encourage more people to come out to these events. We do, as you see, we do it live, and so you'll hear us kind of repeat back your conversations or your questions. That way it's on the video. So it is available online as well. And that way we can take some of the answers to these questions and post them and put them out there. But the purpose of this whole thing is an open forum like Q&A. We usually start talking about just a couple subjects briefly, and then kind of open up to anyone that has questions. And usually it dives us into further and more questions. And we try to get as specific as we feel like we can, or at least kind of guide in more direction of where you can go. And so I guess maybe I'm Dr. Ori Quinn. This is
Dr. Cole.
Yeah, right there. So what I want to talk about, and actually we talked a little bit about last time, but I mentioned testing for issues of yeast or fungus or mold issues. And a couple months back, this is something that we've looked at, like most of my time in practice, I've looked at this. There's some really cool urine analysis tests you can run called mycotoxin tests, where you can see if someone has an active mold or yeast infection internally. And you would kind of run these tests. If they came back, then we can put you on protocols, and you're kind of doing these follow-ups. A couple months back, I went to a training where we presented this idea of doing something as simple as using little petri dishes to have people do spit and then and urine, do the collection. You let it sit in a dark space for about 6 to 7 days, and then see if anything grows or develops on these petri dishes. And it's been a really neat way to get data faster and like just much easier and simpler, and a much easier follow-up. We can kind of follow it and track it over a period of time. And so already, just in the past couple months, I actually brought one that was like positive. There's no name attached or anything to this, but these are kind of some of the things that we've been seeing show up. And what's crazy is going through a detox. This is somebody that had some really big thyroid issues, headaches, body aches, all that stuff. And we come back positive with this, and we don't know the exact kinds that are in here, but we know this is part of your issue. This could be as far as the whole issue. But as we go through that detoxification process over the next 8 to maybe, if it's really extensive, 12 weeks, and we get to see these improve every 4 weeks, we run it again. And we've had several already just after 4 weeks, after 6 weeks, coming back much, much more clear, almost clear. And then you're seeing that improvement of symptoms. It kind of creates this really cool little guide to walk people through when this is their issue. We've had other people that have run these, gave me their sample. I was like so convinced, but then they come back clean, and that means that's not the problem. And so sometimes as well, as you go through that detoxing, we're going to come to the other side, and if every problem they have goes away, amazing, because mold and yeast can attach to a lot of problems, from gut issues to migraines to headaches to low energy, all those things. If we get done with it and we're 50% better, we go amazing, and then kind of go looking for maybe what else is there, what else could be part of the complication. And so that's been kind of neat. And so that's kind of where I wanted to start off.
Presumably that's cheaper than sending it to the lab.
And presumably it's cheaper than sending it to the lab. And the cool thing about this lab, so these, I think these sell for, I think we do like $6 a dish or something like that. So real inexpensive. And the cool thing about this is that if you wanted to, when you get back and it is positive, the way the lab we work with, you can send this back to the laboratory as the finished sample. And then they can give you a read on what kinds and how much are in there. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to know.
If you want to know.
That's kind of how I work, because we're going to work through it. And I tell everyone too that if we're 4 or 6 weeks in and we have you do your follow-up and it's no better or worse, then we need to send it off to the lab. Like we need to actually figure out, is there an exposure? Like somehow this is like building, not going away. Like why are the things we're giving not working? And that could determine if, potentially certain types of issues or things in there can maybe determine that. But so far that has not been the case. So far things have been clearing, which has been really cool to see. So that's kind of where I wanted to start.
Just to add to that, I mean, that it's only $6. I almost just tell everybody that comes in here, people that come in here are like looking to improve their health. I'm like, hey, if you think, take a look at this. And we have them, and you see them, they look like crazies. One of them looks like Mickey Mouse. It's like red and white and yellow. And it's just the craziest stuff you see. And for $6, why would you not run it? It's not like an expensive lab test. And like you said, it's not diagnostic. We don't know exactly what it is, but it tells us there's something there, something to investigate a little further. So I've been doing a lot with my patients. And the other thing the part that's kind of not so cool about it is when it does come back, you go, where did it come from?
Yeah.
And then we start looking at houses. And then if you start if it's in your house and you're having a mold problem, that can be a whole, you have a question?
How do you get their results back after you do the test?
It's 6 days.
6 days.
Yeah. It's how long we let them incubate or sit for.
Yeah.
6 days.
And if you wanted, after the 6 days, and it looks like this, if it does look like this, if you wanted to send it back to the company to get the exact what types are in here, I'm not sure how long that process takes, but I'm sure it probably takes a couple weeks to send it back, get those results back. And actually to go further, because I have my own success story with this, back in December, I caught a second round of COVID and was left with this little cough thing that I could not get rid of. And we would do all kinds of things. I'd do these different herbal stuff. And I was like, what on earth is going on? And this was months later. In fact, I just did this training, again, like I said, a couple months ago. And as soon as I did the training, I was literally in the training, like ordering these dishes because like, this is amazing. Got mine in, did the sample. And sure enough, mine was one of those that was like orange and things. And my saliva, but my urine was clear. And I was like, this has got to be this thing that's keeping my lungs. And so tested out for that, what I needed to take, what to do. For me, it only took about 3 to 4 weeks of taking the right stuff to clear that out. And with it went the cough. Haven't had this weird respiratory issue that I've been stuck with for 6 or 7 months, coming off the end of last year. I mean, it was like I'd wake up in the morning and just, it was kind of crazy. So that's my own success story for it, which has probably driven me to be like testing everybody. But yeah.
I'm also, and he was talking about, if someone's got a big group of symptoms and, you get 50% of it better, that's amazing. I've also had patients that have come in and have had these kind of hard to describe symptoms, but just feeling anxious, feeling a little fatigued, like not feeling their best, but not necessarily feeling awful. And we run a bunch of labs and we've done a bunch of work and, they're getting better, but then it's on both these people I'm talking about, we've run this. Like, they're just like, hey, we should try this and have a look. And they've both been positive. And you're like, you start to look at like anxiety and fatigue, all these things that can be related to that. And so I don't have any success stories to that yet because those are both very recent. But yeah, it's just a good thing to check. So we've been having a lot of fun with it in here. Okay, you want me to move on to the...
Sure.
Another cool thing that we've been doing in here lately is a lot of people want to know how inflamed they are. They're like, I just want to know, is there an inflammation test you can run? And long story short, there's a lot of inflammation tests you can run, but now we have one that's like really easy to do in office, and it's probably honestly the best one. It's like you can walk in here, you don't need one of us to tell you to get it. You don't have to have any doctor's order or anything. And it's just an omega ratio test. So we're going to look at the difference between omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory in your body, versus omega-6 fats, which are pro-inflammatory. So it's just the fatty acid balance in your body. And it's so cool. It's such a simple test. And so basically, this is one from earlier. I just cut off the person's name it was. But so you can just see, like right here, okay, your omega-3 index, you're too far in the red. So we're a little inflamed. We're seeing here different ratios associated with your inflammation. And you can just see this person is just all in the red. Here's a trans fat one. They were okay in trans fat. They're not consuming a bunch of that, which is good. And then the page that I didn't include that's really helpful at the end of this is like, okay, if you're too high in one of these, like here are the foods you can eat to like reduce that, or here's the foods to avoid. And it's just a really simple test. I think it's like about $100 in office, and it's literally a finger prick, and you send it in. So, and it's as simple as if it comes back and you're too pro-inflammatory, you can change your diet and take fish oils, which is omega-3, and you can see it go the other direction. So it's pretty cool.
Which one is it that we normally need more of? I know One is easy to get and one is hard to get. But I don't
Well,
remember 3 or 6.
So the
None-
question is, which
Yeah.
one is it, omega-3 or 6, that we tend to eat more of? Yeah.
Well, yeah. So his rephrasing. So omega-6 is the one we typically get too much of. Depending on who you ask or what you look at, we're supposed to be on like a 1-to-1 ratio, or even maybe 2-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3. We have to have both of them. But in the standard American diet, the SAD diet, we're usually 20-to-1. Too much omega-6, which is pro-inflammatory. And we get most of that from processed foods, because the omega-6 oils, like vegetable oils and stuff, are what they're putting in processed foods. So it's not necessarily, yes, in the standard diet, you get more omega-6. But if you're eating good, healthy stuff, you're not getting tons of omega-6. So it's not like it's hard to get omega-3. You just got to avoid the crummy stuff.
And
That answered your question well.
Yeah, and the research on this is pretty outstanding. I mean, it's been decades in the making. I mean, forever. I mean, omega-3 just in terms of even like cardiovascular health, but really actually long-term like brain health in terms of anxieties, depression, as well as your Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those kind of things in the long haul. That like they've done testing in which like when people are in a depressed and anxious state, like the correlation of that omega-6s are elevated is extremely high, and that by bringing those down, the benefits that come. And that's been, again, in the medical space where they've been running those tests, looking at those correlations.
Bring down the 6s.
So you bring down the
You can
6s.
also bump up the 3s.
Probably some of both, yeah.
There's some of both.
And the fish oil is high in 3s.
Fish oil is
It's
high
all
in 3s.
threes.
It's all 3.
Yeah.
Which is why omega-3 is,
Yeah.
fish oil is all high in 3s. So, and it comes from fish, and so in the diet itself, increasing the amount of fish you consume, and there's some that have a whole lot more omega-3s than others, but increasing that is what you're aiming for.
And not just fish. I mean, like grass-fed beef
Yeah.
has as much omega-3s as wild-caught salmon.
Yeah.
So, but you got to get
Tastes
grass.
way better than
You got to get. That's right, it does. But you got to get grass-fed beef. That's where it's really important. Your beef has got to be 100% grass-fed. If they're fed corn and all the stuff that makes us fat, and they get fat, then their omega-6s go up, and then we just eat their omega-6. So that's, I think, part of the reason why eating meat has gotten a lot of bad rap over the years. It's where eating unhealthy meat is the problem.
Yeah.
It's my theory. But
like buffalo is probably the same.
grass-fed. If you're eating a healthy animal, you're going to get healthy benefits from it.
Question is, what about buffalo or
Oh, yeah,
bison?
sorry.
Buffalo, bison, yeah, it's
Yep.
going to be grass-fed, and so you're
Yep.
going to have the better fat ratios.
Yep.
Because that's really like your vegetable oils, including corn oil in particular, is a very high omega-6, and then that's what they're feeding the cows, and then that's why you get this. The actual meat itself has an altered omega-6/3 ratio, which is not what we want.
So, speaking of corn oil and the fats that we're used to, I saw some information that said the smoke point of oils, because we're supposed to use olive oil and avocado oil that have very high smoke points. If you're going to sear stuff, use avocado oil. I saw some information that said the smoke point
Mhm.
is not the same thing as the oxidative point.
It's
And
true.
that all of those plant oils have oxidation in them as soon as you heat them.
Yep.
And that if you really want to cook with an oil that does not oxidize, you need to cook with tallow or lard.
Yeah. So there,
I don't know the truth of that statement. I haven't had time to investigate it, but I did buy some tallow.
Yeah.
So our question was, what's the best oil to cook with, and what's the difference between oxidation point and smoke point? And those are two. So to answer your question, those are two different things. It's my understanding. And the oxidation point. So when an oil oxidizes, that's when it becomes really unstable and really inflammatory to your body. So we have an omega-6 problem, and when they oxidize, it's even worse. Okay. So, and some of these oils are so reactive at such a low temperature, it doesn't even matter how much you heat them up, they're already oxidized. So that's a big problem with omega-6s. It's not only, omega-6 isn't bad, but too much of it's bad, and oxidized omega-6 is bad. Olive oil, I don't cook with olive oil because I know it's not great to heat it up too much. I use it at the end if I'm using olive oil. But yeah, I cook with animal fats at home. They're really stable. I also cook with coconut oil, like if someone doesn't want it yet. Yeah, anything that's solid at room temperature is going to be the safest thing to cook with. But there can be, I mean, there is, you don't want to, I mean, even on here, one of the things that they're looking at, this AA, arachidonic acid. That's all coming from animal fat. So I don't think anybody should only cook with animal fat all the time, because that can be too pro-inflammatory as well. But yeah, it's a very stable way to cook. So usually I'm cooking with like grass-fed butter or ghee or grass-fed tallow or lard on occasion. Lard's pretty high in omega-6 and to some degree as well. Yeah. Yeah, just like generally there's just more polyunsaturated fat in pork.
So bacon grease is high in 6.
Well, higher than like grass-fed beef. Yeah. You want to be careful with bacon grease too, because they add a bunch of other stuff to it. But cooking with bacon grease is awesome and delicious. Just want to get healthy pigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's right. I don't ever trust people if they don't like bacon and if they don't drink coffee. No offense.
If they don't.
It really sounds a lot like the Asian yin and yang.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
It's a balance, yeah.
Acid and alkaline is the yin and yang kind.
Yeah.
It's kind of anything. And that's the cool thing nowadays about when I first started trying to run this test or a test like this. Not only was it quite expensive, but not many labs were actually even running it, and there was only so much availability. But now you can run something like this relatively easily. You can actually kind of create your own plan, right? Like, because then you also know, like, oh, my 6 ratio is really high, so I do have to be, for at least a period of time, much more extreme in my decision making. Versus if your ratios are actually pretty good and you're just trying to improve them, right, a little bit, and that can go a long ways.
And the last thing I wanted to say, I recently saw some research. They had done some studies on pain relief. So inflamed things hurt, right? So if you can uninflame them, they don't hurt. And they've done some studies now against pharmaceuticals, against pain-killing drugs, and omega-3s are outperforming them over like a 3-month period. Not in an acute setting, but like if you have low back pain, chronic low back pain, they're outperforming like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
80 or 90% of the time.
Or a broken rib. Broken rib.
And so, or a broken rib perhaps. When we have people come in here and they're structural patients, they're not chronic illness, they're not functional medicine patients, they really are just like, my back's out, I don't want to take anything, just fix my back. My first part of the conversation is like, well, I don't want to have you take anything if you don't want to take it, but like, we will have this conversation pretty quickly, especially if it's not resolving. Like, hey, it could be as simple as, you would take 4 grams of fish oil a day while we're doing this. It does, studies show it takes about 3 months, but it's just it's probably the thing that I sell the most in the office because it's literally just food and it's hard to, in our standard American diet, it's hard to come by, unfortunately. So.
I saw a video today that said another source of pain relief is a hormone released by the pineal gland in the first 4 hours of sleep if you're sleeping before midnight. And that there's actually something that's getting sleep before midnight that pineal gland releases this specific hormone, and it is a pain reliever.
Gotcha. So the kind of comment, not so much quite, but there is that she said that she read an article to talk about a hormone released by the pineal gland in the first 4 hours of sleep if you go to sleep before midnight that acts as a pain reliever. The pineal gland creates a lot of different hormones, and so I actually don't know on that one.
I don't know the specific one either.
I don't know what the specific one would be.
But I know there's you talked about also like sleeping before midnight. Like we are supposed to go to bed when it's dark out, and if you don't, it's not about getting 8 hours only. It's about getting 8 hours at the right time. And there is each little section of sleep throughout the night has its own benefits. And we get a lot of deep sleep in the beginning. Yeah. So like a lot of studies show if you can like sleep from 8 to 2, like you've gotten a lot of your restorative sleep. Mm-hmm. Not saying everybody should get up at 2, but yeah. I don't know the exact hormone either.
To jump on that topic though, because that's an interesting concept, right? Because we do hear people come in a lot saying that they are tired. They feel like they go a whole night's sleep and they don't feel rested. And one of the first questions is, okay, like, well, when do you go to sleep? Like, what are your sleep times and hours? Because nowadays it's very common that between phones and TV and things and work that people are not going to sleep until 11 o'clock, midnight. And they're like, yeah, but I get 7 hours of sleep and I still just feel so tired. It can be the time frame. So that was all us talking for a little bit. So we'd love to open it up and see what kind of questions. If there's questions you guys have. Was that a hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've been really curious. I started reading about this deal that out of France, they've been studying that nicotine will actually cure COVID. Have you heard anything about that? we don't. We'll
Whatever.
talk about
Okay.
something
Yeah.
else then.
What'd you say?
No, I said, well, we can repeat it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we
For
should
the-
start with repeating it.
Yeah.
So she said that she read an article coming out of France about the idea of nicotine curing COVID, and if that's true or not. So an interesting thing happened with COVID, which is what led scientists and researchers to kind of go down this avenue of looking at the effects of nicotine and could it have an effect on COVID. And that is that statistically, especially these numbers were coming out in the beginning, that interestingly enough, for a condition that was pulmonarily like affect our lungs and we're having pulmonary effects, that those that smoked actually had better outcomes than those that did not.
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and that's what actually like drove this
Oh my God.
this line of research, and it was like a really weird, like everyone kind of just perceived it as this odd phenomena that was happening, and so there became this question over nicotine and its effects on cells and its effects on on different systems and how it works versus like how COVID was working. Particularly talk about the red blood cell and oxygen and the way that oxygen is like binding and those effects. And so I know I've read a lot of stuff in this vein, talking about like nicotine has a possibility of having an effect on really like the symptoms that are produced. So if you can keep the lung fields clear and you can keep oxygen binding to red blood cells, then you're not going to go into the effects of COVID that really kind of that killed people. And so that's really what they're looking at, is not so much like can it fight the virus or can it stop the virus. It's kind of a compound like nicotine stop the effects of the virus on our red blood cells.
I forget the name of the doctor. Actually, Jessica knew the name of the guy that I listened to. It was a podcast I listened to about him studying it, and then and that's what it started out with, saying that they realized they let terminally ill COVID patients go home to recover or to die, actually, and then they were recovering. The smokers were recovering.
Yeah. So I only read kind of little different veins and things about this and the smoking and the nicotine thing, and so I'm not super versed on it. But
So are you having your COVID patients start smoking?
no,
Well,
they're doing nicotine patches, is what. Yeah, I kind of heard about all that too.
The one thing I have to add is there's been a fair bit of research lately on nicotine and its effects, like positive effects on the mitochondria.
Yeah.
And mitochondria get damaged in COVID, so that's probably the link there. But I hadn't heard any of that, so that's all very fascinating to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Nicotine.
Nicotine. Yeah. So it's apparently the cigarette now. I mean, currently the way at least part of the research was looking at is that the harmful effects of cigarettes are not nicotine. That's actually a beneficial effect of it potentially. Yeah.
And because you're looking at the harmful effects being a
All
lot of the chemicals
the
and
2,000
additives
chemicals they put in
that
there.
they put into it before they do it, which is why the data off of smoking is interesting, because it is in the past has been different from different countries in different parts of the world. Yeah.
Since we're on the COVID topic,
Yeah.
I still do not have taste or smell, and I've tried everything, and it's been over 2 years.
Okay.
I've tried vitamin D, I've tried zinc, I've tried all the different things, and I'm just like, I've tried the thump in the head. I mean, I've tried.
That was my
It's like, what? So anyway, I don't know if you all recommend anything for that.
Yeah. So the question was, 2 years ago had COVID and you still don't have your sense of taste and smell 2 years later. And do we have any recommendations for that? And maybe nicotine patches, right? No. No. So I'll just say, being an illness that all of us are kind of like being obviously like new to this space and new to this like world and its effects and what it was doing. Everyone's kind of scrambling to try to figure out like, what's the best options, and is there an option? I had oddly good success in my time during COVID with clients and trying to help and assist them, and then even your chronic like long haul COVID clients, using a combination of two different herbs, and I'm willing to say those for sure. And it's there's a product line that we use called Supreme Nutrition, and so there are two herbs coming from them, and one is called Vital Guard, which is it's chrysanthemum is what it is, but their company calls it Vital Guard, and then Camu Camu is the other one, and we would use that combination to help my clients through the symptoms of COVID and help with recovery and try to keep people out of going to hospitals and different things like that. And I've used it a ton since with chronic COVID. And so in terms of my like simple possibility, I would say that would be it. Otherwise we look at other detox mechanisms. What's the state of the liver? What's other factors that could be kind of layering into this that we might need to actually correct and clear up as well. Yeah.
Another thing to address too is looking at the cranial nerves, like the nerves that fire your taste buds and your sense of smell and all that stuff, and trying to correct from the brain aspect of it too. This would be a good thing to look at. And my next question too would be like, what type of zinc did you take? Because sometimes people do better with certain types of zinc. There's a lot of people in our world that are claiming like, oh, just take high dose zinc for a month or whatever, and it'll come back. But sometimes there could be issues with like digesting zinc, or it's not the right form that your body's needing, or something like that. So that's another thing you could explore too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of zinc is good for
It's
your body?
probably, well, the way that we would look at it, we would like test, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's lots of forms that are zinc, but that are good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a certain one that's.
Well, I've always heard zinc is good if you've got a cold, but I just buy what's available at the drugstore. I didn't know there were types.
Lots of types, yeah.
Yeah, it's what they bind it to.
How they process it.
Yeah, it's what they bind it to. So like to make so they can actually transport into the body in several factors, but it's like what they bind it to stabilize it. So you have zinc citrate, zinc picolinate. There's several different ones.
You can just eat oysters. It's the highest form of zinc, highest source of zinc.
Or just eat oysters.
Oysters.
What's a high source of zinc?
Zinc, oysters.
Oysters. You
Yeah.
said just eat
Oysters.
oysters.
Yeah,
Really?
they have their
Yeah.
own problems, but they have a lot of zinc.
I'm gonna have to find something else.
Yeah, everybody's like,
What's the second?
yeah.
I don't know that.
I don't know
the
that
answer to
one.
that question. It probably moves down to like mussels or something, right? Yeah, something else.
Yeah,
like
exactly,
something else
probably.
from the ocean is probably where it
Zinc,
moves.
yeah. Oysters have their own problems too, as our oceans are
Is
getting
there any zinc
toxic.
in ocean salt, Celtic salt?
I don't know.
If there is, it's pretty minimal. So while there's a huge advantage to your sea salts, pink salts, Celtic salts, and they have, traditional table salt is just what we call sodium chloride, and you've lost all the other minerals that go with it. If you actually look at the ratio, even with the pink salt, Himalayan salt, sea salt, all that, I mean, those other minerals still only make up at most like 1%, and the 99% is still sodium
it's mostly
chloride.
trace minerals.
It's mostly
right?
trace minerals.
Smaller minerals.
Smaller minerals. So while it's still the way better option for multiple reasons and that well-roundedness, even if there was zinc in it, it wouldn't be much.
Not enough to help.
Yeah. So
If you've got a cold, you need to go to the drugstore and get something.
oysters.
I
Yeah.
like
Say again?
Maybe.
cook them.
Probably.
Cook 'em.
I like fried oysters. I'm not eating it raw.
What are you frying it in? Just kidding.
No.
Bacon grease.
There you go.
Bacon grease.
We've already decided that's delicious. Yeah.
That's delicious.
Cook the oil.
You know, my family used to go out and get the fresh oysters and then barbecue them.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Because, yeah, that's really good.
No.
Fresh is good. Now I'm hungry.
As long as it's done.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
is there fresh oysters in Arkansas? Probably not.
Yes,
Rocky
there is a place in Rogers called
Rocky
Rose
Mountain
City,
oysters.
and they have a selection of oysters.
Excellent. All right. Now we know. That's where we're going after this.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go. Just kidding.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Um,
hungry.
What other questions?
Yeah.
You got a question?
Me.
Yeah.
More
I
questions.
actually do.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at a bad cholesterol, so if you have your blood tested, right, and you have your bad cholesterol and your good cholesterol, and I'm looking at teetering on possibly needing medication to lower the bad cholesterol, but
Okay.
I also need to raise the good cholesterol. If I'd like to avoid medication as long as possible, what could I do to have the fastest? I know I'm going to need to change my diet and what
Sure.
have you, but I want to know what I could do to change my lifestyle, my eating habits, or whatever to naturally work with that versus having to take medication. If I'm a pretty clean, I like to think I'm a pretty clean eater.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing to make it be where it's at.
Yeah.
I guess.
So her question is balancing good cholesterol and bad cholesterol without having to take medications. If someone was not wanting to take medications, what are the other alternatives? So And this is based on blood. You already had blood tests for this. Okay. Do you know? Did you just test like the really basic, like LDL, HDL, triglycerides? Is that kind of the parameters we're talking about here?
It looks pretty basic to me, but I could.
Well, so a lot of times, so people come to us a lot and they bring like their blood work they've already had, and they're like, I think I have high cholesterol, and it'll be like borderline high or a little higher than you'd want it to. And then my next step is to go, well, so when we say bad cholesterol, LDL is not all bad. It can be, it's more bad than good, right? But there are good forms of it. And HDL, good cholesterol, is not all good. Okay, so there's a lot of discrepancy there. And when we look at these basic lipid panels that just show HDL and LDL, it doesn't tell the whole story. And a lot of times people come in here, and if they've been eating really healthy, we go, okay, so we're going to go look and see like at all the different types of LDL and look at the different sizes of LDL and really take a look at it. And a lot of times people come in and we see a slightly elevated LDL, which enough that someone may put them on medication or suggest medication. But then you look at it and the size of it's big and fluffy, which is what you want. The small, dense parts of cholesterol, they're the ones that get into your blood vessels and stick and start to cause problems. I have no problem with LDL being elevated if it's the right type of LDL. I mean, if it's way high, that's one thing. And a lot of times we have people that come in here and their LDL is like way, way high. And then we run the genetic test and they just have genetics for it, but the LDL is the right size. So we don't have a problem with it. So we don't deal with medications here. So I can't say whether or not you should take a medication, but my next question, or my first question there when someone says I have cholesterol problems, we need to go investigate a little bit further. And we do that test. It's called an NMR test. It's really awesome. It's really easy to read. It's like this. It's just like you don't have to know anything. You can just look to see is it red or is it green? You can see all your parameters. And so a lot of people that think they have cholesterol problems come in here and we look at them and they don't really have cholesterol problems. But let's say they do. I mean, dietary things, a lot of things that we're looking at is like a lot of times cholesterol, there's a big relationship to insulin and blood sugar. So we're like trying to do things to bring blood sugar down. Bringing exercise also a big one, and that's you really see like when one goes up, one comes down. Saying that, like people say there's this huge relationship to exercise and HDL. My HDL has always been low, and I don't eat a bunch of sugar, and my exercise is
way more than your average person.
Yeah, and so there's some discrepancy I think for everybody's kind of got their normal, but the short answer would be there's usually more to that story than and they're also
come and get more intensive blood panel here.
Yeah.
Work forward with change in lifestyle, diet, and then we run it again.
Yeah.
And how long, if I was the perfect patient, committed and whatever, how long would you wait to rerun my blood work to see it is working?
I mean, what's the fastest you've seen it turn around?
I do 3 months.
I was gonna say 6, but
3 months.
Yeah, if you're
borderline, I'd say 3 months. If you're way off,
Yeah.
I'm still going to run it at 3 months because I want to make sure that things are going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But you probably won't see the full result till 6.
The other thing I was going to say is that like an alternative to drugs is that an alternative to a statin is a red yeast rice and CoQ10. Like in some studies, performs as well as a statin.
What was the first one?
Red yeast rice.
Red yeast
Yep.
rice. Okay.
Yep, and you'll sometimes find those, like we have a supplement here that they come together. And so if you do decide to take a statin, you really need to take CoQ10 with it, which is basically like this little form of energy that our body needs. And statins block that from being produced. And so anybody that takes a statin should be taking CoQ10. It's the same with red yeast rice. Red yeast rice works very similar to the way a statin does. It blocks this enzyme. We don't make cellular energy very well anymore, so you need to take it to like help that. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of randomly went on. Yeah,
please.
come on with it.
So, in the terms of, I'm speaking for me personally as an adult, I feel like I have trouble focusing, and I don't know that. I mean, I know ADHD's thrown around or whatever, and who knows? Maybe I haven't, maybe I don't. But I don't know if it's like anxiety driven, keeping me from focusing, or it's true I have a focus issue or whatever. What would you recommend a supplement for an adult that, and the reason I'm asking this, it's going to be long for me to re-say it, but I was at a coffee place and they had the CBD in their coffee, and I thought, why not? You know, I cannot tell you, and I really just did it for fun, just to see the difference. I was night and day.
Wow.
Like in a positive way.
In a positive way. Probably, I think I drank it at 8:30 or 9. When I looked up, it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and I had been completely focused.
That's amazing.
And I don't see myself as just I can't get a task done. I'm not like that. I just think it truly, I got almost 3 to 4 days of work done. I was that focused. And I never really thought I was unfocused until I did that.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the question being for adults, the idea of like focusing, and they mentioned that ADD, ADHD often does get thrown around now, even for adults, and that you had an experience, right, where you drank coffee with CBD oil in it, and that like really helped your brain like focus in, and that kind of made you aware that maybe you're not as focused, or you could be more focused. I always give long answers. Sorry, I always give long answers, but this is a really interesting topic because focusing has everything to do with our like brain chemistry and like our four main brain hormones, which is dopamine, GABA, acetylcholine, and serotonin, and like their balance plays this huge role in terms of like how your brain focuses in on things. And so everything in the CBD pathways. So when someone comes in, they actually say, "Hey, I did this and it helped." It's like super eye-opening. Because the CBD pathways and pretty much everything connected to, I guess, like marijuana in general, go through what is called like the GABA pathways, and they like increase GABA in the brain, which actually helps calm the brain down, is what it does. It's the big like calmer of the brain. And so if someone goes through that avenue and actually like helps calm them, some people do it and it's like they hate the feeling of it, they don't like the feeling of it, and that ultimately means that their body really doesn't want more GABA. There's different reasons why, and if it does help, then GABA could be a solution or an assistance, as well as CBD, as well as infamous for kind of bringing down inflammation levels, which kind of what we were talking about earlier with these ratios, and bringing down some of those inflammation levels, at least temporarily, that could be going on inside the brain. Because some people do get into a state we call it like the brain on fire, where they're internally some of them is inflamed, and that creates agitation in the brain. So somewhere in that pathway is probably the answer. There's a really cool test out there called the Braverman test. There's a book written by a doctor named Dr. Braverman. You can jump online now, just Braverman test something. You can search for it and you can go through it. And there's this huge long questionnaire, and it will tell you like kind of where your brain chemistry levels are, and then where probably your deficiencies lie. If I had that history from someone in like a consult, we do these little consults so we can kind of talk through like what's going on, what do we need to have you run, what do we need to have you test. One of my things would be, hey, answer this questionnaire for me so that I can figure out where this brain chemistry is and then figure out where to kind of balance it. And so I don't know if I have like, there are products that help to increase GABA if that's where we feel like the issue lies. You need things like selenium is one of the things we use for that. Where their other cofactors are not coming
B6.
to B6.
Magnesium, I think.
Yeah, B6 is your other big one. And so there are products out there like that. We have one called, even though it's for kids, called Calm Kids. It's like a B6 and a couple other things. That is something I do try with adults even. And then sometimes we look at the individual components to that. But usually it has something to do with either GABA or dopamine and their production of either being too high, too low, or somewhere in between.
The one thing I'll add to that is that the pharmaceutical drugs work on the dopamine pathway. Mm-hmm. And so if people have been like, yeah, when I take, whatever ADHD drug, it helps, and we can go in and start working on the dopamine pathway. And usually, and there's supplements specifically for it. There's dietary things you can do, Mm-hmm. Like one that we have in here that we would use is called tyrosine matrix. Mm-hmm. Dopamine's made out of tyrosine, which is just an amino acid. Basically comes from eating protein. TY.
Yeah. ROI.
Yeah.
ROSI.
And there's another, which we don't have it here, but a good company called Apex. We have the company, we don't have the supplement in stock, but called Dopaflow. That could be one to try too. Yeah. So that's where my brain was going first, but he makes a really good point with like, if GABA, are you anxious at times? Yeah.
I mean, just
GABA is like, so.
And historically, I had been on meds for anxiety and OCD. I was on Zoloft, and it really did help me.
Then those work on the GABA pathway, and so that's.
That was, there was a circumstance, and then once that circumstance was gone, I was able to get off those medications. And,
Yeah.
But now we have a teenager in the house, so I guess that's a circumstance.
I'm so sorry.
The circumstances are back.
Circumstances back. So but I can feel that familiar feeling coming back, but not to the intensity that it was before. So I've just been thinking, I feel like probably some things off,
Yeah. So she said that she had taken some, just repeating back here, that she had taken some anti-anxiety medications that had helped her with anxiety in the past. And those are all based on the GABA pathway.
Okay.
So making you calm, increasing GABA calms you down.
Mm-hmm.
And just like a side note here, if you go to like natural grocers or Whole Foods and buy GABA, it's a really big molecule. It's too big for it. It shouldn't be able to cross our blood-brain barrier. Okay, so it should be stuck out in our body and not get into our brain. If you take GABA and it feels really good, that means you got holes in some barriers. So we don't ever use GABA here. It's actually the only time that I would use it clinically is to see if someone has like a leaky barrier, like a leaky gut or leaky brain. Because if they get really good results from it and they feel good, they're like, well, can I just keep taking it? I'm like, well, yeah, but we need to like solve the problem of the plugging the holes. So like what he's talking about is, we have supplements here. The one I use 2 of them. One's called Gabatone, one's called GabaFlow, and they're the cofactors to help you make and like the parts and the pieces to help you make GABA. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I give normally. I don't ever have GABA in the office. Yeah. So if you went to go buy it, like be careful at the store. Well, no, if you go buy it at the store and it helps, you're like, all right, we got some gut problems to work on. Yeah.
So if you're looking at me as a whole, given the 2 questions that I asked, a blood test here and a blood test is what I need from you all to
For the cholesterol.
For cholesterol, yeah.
The cholesterol, and then
all the cholesterol.
a trial of something based on my questionnaire and intake.
Yeah.
For the possible GABA issue.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's actually a great question. I'm going to go off that a little bit of like, because there's not like I mentioned those 4 main brain chemistry hormones: dopamine, GABA, serotonin, acetylcholine. There's actually not a great way to run that. Like there's not a blood test you can go run or this or that. And so we rely upon the things like those questionnaires in that situation because my experience has been it works pretty well and there's not another way to get that.
And we have some in-office testing that's not diagnostic, but that can help lead us down the right pathway for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
That helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good questions. What else?
It's kind of fun. All right, that one's fun. I like the brain chemistry stuff. Brain chemistry stuff is really neat. Yeah.
Have we got anything else? You can go to our trusty list from the internet.
I didn't remember the name of that doctor that's been doing the testing. It's Dr.
Artis.
Yeah. And Jessica knew about it. But,
Dr. Artis is the one that's been doing the testing. So Dr. Artis is out of, I'm very familiar with his stuff and his work, but yeah, he's actually originally out of Texas, and I don't know, maybe he has synced up, I think you mentioned, and that's where he started, his whole story began is out there in Texas.
Yeah, that was, he did that video that I looked at and said that the nicotine patches now were being used to help with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can expect that they'll stop selling nicotine.
Sometime soon.
Yeah, anytime soon.
Can't imagine even the nicotine patch.
Kind of wondered the same about myself.
What's the deal with people testing positive for COVID with no symptoms?
Well, so her question was, what's the deal with people testing positive for COVID with no symptoms? The long answer to that is that those tests, they made those tests more sensitive early on, I think, to try to catch it sooner. So in the PCR test, if that's what you're talking about, originally, like they basically made the parameters wider so they could catch more of it, where like, say if they did a PCR test for flu or something like that, it's a narrower range. So it may show up, but it didn't like hit the range. So for COVID, they made it wider. Who knows the reasoning, right? We could start getting into conspiracy theories or whatever, but that's probably a big reason for that. But we can also carry a virus and our body can deal with it and get rid of it.
So yeah, we use the term subclinical, which means, like if it's in your system and it's at some level. And the truth is that we're all so exposed to all these different things that if you actually made a PCR test, which is like particle count, if you made it sensitive enough, you probably could find almost any illness inside of somebody because at some point in time you've been exposed to something at some level. And so that was one of the things that was questioned in the beginning with COVID, for sure, is that like they set a standard for COVID at a much higher sensitivity of the test than what we standardly use on a PCR test.
So all it's looking for is just a chunk of DNA, right? So
Yeah.
if you ever had COVID, breathed it in, your body broke it down, and it's not all the way out yet, theoretically. If you had enough of that, yeah.
They'll show in your system.
Yeah. And for those watching online, please submit questions. Some people submit beforehand, so it's better. So for next time, if you have questions that we're not getting to now, submit beforehand, and then we'll get to them next time. But so that's what this list is. But we have another question here.
Rebounders. What's the benefit
Yes.
of it?
I'm all. Can I take that one over? I guess.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm all for them. After I say, rebounders and what's the benefit of them? Like, is there a benefit to them? I'm going to give all my positive, and then I'm going to tell you maybe one crazy case that did occur with a rebounder. So the positive is like it's a very low impact movement. Rebounder is let me back up. So rebounders are kind of like, we call it like mini trampolines is what they are. So very stable, like mini trampolines, you can just jump. So it's very low impact compared to something like running. And yet you can get the cardiovascular effect, and you can do a whole exercise amount of time, heart rate gets up, you can control heart rate levels. They're looking at some research, there's research come out showing that it actually tends to like burn more calories, interesting enough, than even running, which is kind of surprising, but it does. And then one of the biggest benefits is talked about is its movement of the lymphatic system. So your lymphatic system is a crucial part of your immune system. It's like a big place where the body actually fights off different infections, bacteria. It's also like the drainage system of the body, how it takes all the body's like byproducts from just moving, working, heart beating, all that stuff, and pulls it back up and then dumps it back into the blood flow so it can go to the liver so it can be like filtered out. There's no pump to that like the heart anyways. Like the heart's constantly pumping without you thinking about it. It is pumped by muscle contraction. And so that action of that real just works really, really well to get that to pump and to move. So you see a lot of benefit in the lymphatic system. You get the cardiovascular benefit, then you get low impact versus something like running. So you add all that up, and it works really great. It could work perfect for someone as like the only exercise they ever did in certain ways, or in terms of the cardiovascular side, or it could definitely work as like an entry point if someone wants to build up and get to running. Like, how do we actually strengthen these joints, kind of improve function before we get the harder impact of running? All that being said, there is a concern with, but this is not just rebounders. This is like any exercise, even like running, of when you get older with things like osteopenia, osteoporosis, the jumping effect or movement is kind of more effect on the spine. And so if those are a concern, then it needs to be assessed whether or not that's a proper exercise for you.
What would be the timing of it? How long would you do it?
Would you do it for? I say 20 to 30 minutes is what.
Just how long to do it for, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. How long to do the rebounding for? Yeah. How long would you do the rebounding for? So if it's your like kind of standalone cardiovascular exercise, then I'm going to say 20 to 30 minutes within a session. With my clients, I aim for, because there's a lot of really cool research on this, where they have followed tens of thousands of people over lifetimes, and they've done this multiple times. And they've shown that they put it into two categories: low intensity exercise and high intensity exercise. But if you're in a low intensity exercise category and you do 2.5 to 3 hours a week of exercise, you pretty much like max out the cardiovascular benefit of exercise. Like after that, you still get more return, but it's very small incremental return on that. And so if people do 2.5 to 3 hours of exercise a week of cardiovascular exercise, low intensity, you actually decrease your likelihood of dying, of all mortality rates, like of all mortality across the board, like meaning like of all conditions across the board. So cancer, cardiovascular, diabetes, all the above drop by 40%, which is phenomenal. Like there is no prescription supplement, anything that can like hold anything on that. If you do high intensity exercises, an hour and a half a week, as the practitioner in me, the chiropractor in me loves the low intensity more, because I feel like it's not as heavy and hard. for your average person. Like if someone's wanting to perform at a very high level and like, have a goal and they're kind of working up to it and doing the right thing, you can go after some high intensity stuff. But your general person, I feel like that's just trying to, be more active, be more engaged, wants to feel better longer, the low intensity of 2.5 to 3 hours a week is perfect.
I also say too, talking about lymphatic and the immune system, movement is so helpful, not just for your lymphatic system, but other parts of your immune system too. Like all these cells that are floating around in our blood right now, like attacking things and getting rid of things, they need physical movement. So that's probably another big benefit of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like if someone comes in, they have immune problems, that's like one of the 4 things we've got to get you exercising. And the answer for how long that I would say too is depending on like the issue. But if we're starting out slow, I would just say like to tolerance too, especially an autoimmune patient. Yeah. Like if you the next day can't get back on the trampoline and do it for 30 minutes again, you did it way too long, go to 10 minutes or whatever and like start to kind of. But if you're a crazy person and you just want to like get some extra exercise, just do it while you're watching TV. It's a different level. Maybe that's what we should tell everybody if they're watching TV. You have to rebound while you're watching TV. That's the punishment.
That's the punishment.
Somebody like falls off the trampoline. You're like, okay. Yeah, exactly. Can you fix a sprained ankle? Yeah.
Create a stationary bicycle that you have to pedal to generate the electricity to watch.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Stationary bicycle.
Idea.
You have to pedal to generate the electricity to watch the TV.
That'd be awesome.
I like it.
I'm sitting over here giggling because there's a bear. I used to work at the zoo, and there's a bear that got caught on a trampoline and couldn't get him off the trampoline. He was having so much fun.
Oh, that's hilarious. I thought that was going to be a sad story.
Yeah.
Like, no, he loved it.
It was just kind of crazy. And then he finally, I guess, I don't know if he didn't realize, but anyway, he bounced off the edge of it. He didn't seem to
Just having a good time.
Yeah, he got in somebody's backyard. But anyway, yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. Any other questions, or we need to go to this list? Somebody's got to have another question, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing? Right. What do we got on here? What's a good one?
Sleep.
Go for it.
So one of the questions off this list was, why do I get so hot when I sleep? And maybe I'm opening a Pandora's box here. But very interesting question, because that is something that people do come in with for sure. And it seems to be that I can kind of talk about the 3 factors that I would look at. For me, in time in the clinic, asking questions about sleep and like seeing commonalities of people that have that issue. And it's usually kind of later in the night, like they'll go to sleep just fine, but then they start waking up at like 3 a.m. or so, and they're just like roasting hot and throwing off all the covers. And it's not uncommon that it flips as they go back to sleep and they wake up again like freezing cold and they pull covers back on. I've consistently have seen this with clients that have autoimmune conditions. And so that is something that I always go look for when I see that going on, is like, hey, there could be this factor to it. There's more in the history that might point me in that direction. Liver issues, particularly because that time frame, usually this occurs at about 3 o'clock in the morning. In the acupuncture systems, every organ meridian has like a time of day where it's most active, and that 3 to 5 a.m.
1 to 3.
Sorry, 1 to 3. Yeah. 1 to 3 is liver. And then that would be the time that it usually happens, is 1 to 3. Sorry. So I got to switch my time there. 1 to 3 is liver. And then the next category would be the world of hormones, which there's a whole lot to talk about and maybe in that category, but would be the world of hormones and like an imbalance happening there, and particularly in like estrogen, progesterone, even FSH to estrogen, progesterone, those things, as you're kind of going after that category and trying to figure it out. So.
The only thing I would add to that is that eating too late too can raise your body temperature up a lot, especially a lot of protein late. So like I tell people to try to eat try to eat at least 3 hours before you go to bed. And alcohol will raise your blood temperature. Raise your body temperature up, which probably has a lot to do with the liver too.
Yep.
And it's detoxification of it.
Well, when I had all that trouble I had a lot of trouble with my liver about 15 years ago, and that was why I was waking up. Before it got really bad, I was waking up at 1 o'clock at night, startled awake, and be really, really hot, and then, like you said, I go back to sleep. And the acupuncture stopped all that. about all that.
Yeah, I mean, give that. Yeah, so she said, as an example, that it got to, like, she started having issues at this time about 1 to 3 a.m. where she'd wake up super hot, very agitated, and then be able to get back to bed. And that she worked with an acupuncturist to clear that liver meridian, and then that helped calm it down. Yeah.
We do a lot of that here. Like when people come in with sleep issues, like the first questions from us is like trying to find a pattern. If it's waking up at the same time every night, we're looking at those acupuncture times. 1 to 3 is liver, 3 to 5 is lung. And so you're starting to kind of look in there and see, is there something going on in the acupuncture system? That's a big part of it. And the other part is another big one, at least another one that I'm looking for, it's like low-hanging fruit, is your adrenal glands, which is related to blood sugar and stress and all this stuff. So those are kind of two where I would go with that too.
I think it probably end right there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for
Came
the
to the
people that showed up?
yeah, top of the hour.
No sleep questions coming off of that?
No.
My son, he always has trouble sleeping, or has one.
How old is he? She said her son always has trouble sleeping.
Yeah, he's 20, he'll be 26. Not very often.
Pretty high stress. He's 26 years old for the camera.
High stress job.
It's got to be. I mean, my first thought when that is just adrenals. So when we start to see, I mean, I would have a lot of questions for him, but our adrenal glands are these little glands in our body. I mean, they're tiny and they make all the stress hormone in our body, and they just get, in our modern society, they just get the crap kicked out of them all the time. And so a lot of times they have a lot to do with our blood sugar and keeping our blood sugar stable. And so what happens a lot at night is our blood sugar will drop and our adrenal has to make stress hormones to bring it back up. And so we wake up and we're like stressed or hot, or, we're like, oh God. And then we can't go back to sleep. The stress hormones are what keep us awake. So it's this like weird cycle of adrenals trying to do a lot, keeping the blood sugar balanced. And so
He works out, he does, has a good diet, all the things.
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't understand, Mom, because I've always, kind of raised my kids that way too.
yeah.
So, I was just curious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Acupuncture could help. Yeah. But yeah, we see it all the time in here. I mean, it's just kind of like that's how Americans are, right? Like we're like, it's in our genes. We work hard. We're entrepreneurs, whatever. And so we see it all the time in here. But so in that case, like if he were a patient, you just start to figure out like, okay, well, where's all the stress coming from? Is it all mental, emotional stress, or is there some physical stress? Is there some biochemical stress? So the biggest internal stressor, or the biggest internal stimulator of your adrenal glands is histamine. Like, do you have a bunch of food allergies that we don't know about? Maybe we get your food allergies to go down. You're not making histamine anymore. And then your adrenals can do what they need to do, and then you can sleep through the night. Because we always think of stress as like mental, emotional, but it's more than that. Like if we go work out really hard, that creates stress hormones. If we eat a bunch of bad food, that creates stress hormones. And so there's a whole thing there. But my guess is probably like his adrenal glands are tired. They're doing their best to keep up, but the modern world's tough on them.
Yep.
More time in nature.
More time in nature. That's right.
Go sleep in the woods for 3 or 4 nights.
That's right.
Yeah. It'll help reset them.
Yep. Sleep with their windows open. It's the best
Yep.
we can do, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. We'll be back next month.
Yep. Bring your friends. Keep bringing your friends. And if anybody knows we're still trying to partner and grow this thing bigger in person. I know we're getting a lot of people watching online, but our goals are to eventually have it catered and have more people and probably at a different location. So if anybody knows other businesses that would be interested to partner up and help grow this thing, let us know.
Just try serving chocolate cake and then
It's like, might get a different clientele, which is fine. We don't judge. Okay.